Okay, Shane, part two. This is from Mick Miley. He's making me feel old because he's called Grandad Mick 1966. And he wants to know what your thoughts on ante-post prices and betting, ante-post betting is. And he says he loved the interview.
I don't really get involved with it. To be honest, I'm sort of waiting till day of the race to have my bets. I'd be the wrong person to ask, although I did have one ante-post bet at Cheltenham and Tully Hill, and he ran really poor, so I'm probably not the best judge to ask about the ante-post racing. But there's loads of lads out there that love that angle in. You see how successful the podcasts are and that, leading up to Cheltenham and the programmes that they do. But I tend to steer clear of it, and I'd be just a day-to-day punter, really.
Okay, now this is from Neil Price at Swanzerlona 1. Does Shane price every race on a card and can tell after just, say, 5 minutes of study it's not a race he's getting involved in and just line it? Also, in two parts of this, also staking. If you don't want to mention specific stakes, pound-wise, just use points. Would he use a Kelly-style staking system?
The first part is I'll price every race on its merits, and I probably have a gut feeling about a race that I don't think no matter the price would want to be well out of line before I'd step in and have a bet. Just knowing the horses that are in the race and maybe the stables they're coming from, they're just the type of race where I don't think I'm going to have a bet in that race, but I will have priced it. As regards staking, as I said to you before, that'll come down to the price of the horse. So it will, and how much you can sort of just have on quietly and go about your business. I'd be quite consistent with my staking. If I want to back a 5-to-1 shot, regardless what the race is or race type, I'll have the same amount on.
So just my interaction here, do you back it to win a certain amount of money each time, each horse?
Yeah, and I'm taking into consideration the stake as well. There'll be a ceiling to how much you'll want to invest in a race. So when you're having your first bet, I'd be considering as well, is there a second horse in the race that I might back later when the market matures? So you don't want to have yourself in a position where you could be doing in too much in one race. I think you have to consider that. But again, you're coming back to, if you're giving yourself the opportunity to win 3 or 4 grand 3 or 4 times a day, that's what you're trying to do.
Okay. Kevin Duffy would like to know, what percentage edge do you need to perceive to have a bet? Do you record actual strike rate versus expected wins at the prices? For example, 3-to-1 equaling 0.25 wins in order to determine your actual edge over a large sample?
No, I put my hands up to that now. I don't go into that side of things deeply as regards. I wouldn't be going back and working out how my bets fared against Betfair SP. You'll know race to race how you've done against Betfair on the race. But I wouldn't be sitting down at the end of the week trying to work out if I beat the expectancy of horses and all that. I tend to have just moved on to the next meeting, to be honest with you.
Okay, now this is, I should have really sorted these out properly. Tom Weeks 96, Tom W. This is going back over to your access to overnight prices. Shane mentions he has access to overnight prices. Could he still make it pay if only able to be on from 11 a.m. plus? And how much would it impact his return on investment?
From 11 a.m, yeah, I think it'd still be okay. That's a different market now to just rolling into Betfair half an hour before. Funny enough, like you're having a bet the night before. Like a lot of times the prices are still there at 11 a.m. And sometimes they can be bigger. So you're looking at a different market. It's a much more mature market, and you're learning each hour that passes by. You're learning something as you go along. Yeah, as I said to you, you might have heard a couple of things about a race by 11 a.m. So you might be in a stronger position It could be a better bet at a slightly shorter price at 11 a.m. and you might have more on.
Okay, this is my interaction again with this. In Icy's interview, when I first knew about you, he said you affect the market. So if you kept your cards close to your chest until later on, would those prices still be there? Would somebody else have rumbled?
I will. Unless you just think that it's just not going to hold up. I'll try and hold off as late as I can now these days with bets, because you have access to them to get on, and it'll obviously be a little bit easier after 11 o'clock or midday to have a bet, especially now coming in this time of year when you're going to be having evening racing. Meetings not start until 5:30. You've the whole day. But when I say I have access to prices overnight, I may not have access to those prices after 10 a.m. Do you know what I mean? So I have to pull, if I'm having a bet the night before on a horse, it has to be the night before. I don't have a choice to sit I can't sit on that price. I don't have access to it late afternoon the next day.
Okay, this is from Peter Cordwell. I don't know if this is an in thing or whether it's just something he's into, but is it too late to espouse the power of the 2p place pot perm online at the toe?
I'm not a place pot guy, to be honest with you. I don't know.
I don't know, maybe that's just his...
I know plenty of lads still like doing a place pot. They were never my sort of bet now, to be honest with you. So can't answer that one, I'm afraid.
Okay, this is from Justin McGurk. Right, Justin, without giving too much away, when you compile your tissue, do you weight different factors? For example, 10% trip, 30% ground, 20% track, etc. If not, what do you consider the most important factor when formulating your prices? Thank you.
I think ground is massively important, because that's the one factor. That's the one factor in the criteria that you use that can beat a horse on its own, is the going. If you have a horse that won't go on soft ground and it's soft, that doesn't matter what else he has going for him, that's going to beat him. So it is. Look, horses for courses, course form, so it is. I think you need to be, especially on the flat, you need to try and build up a profile with horses, remembering their draws from previous days, etc. You know, going back, it's very important, especially on the flat. You can lose a race in the first 100 yards. You don't necessarily do that over jumps. You can, but it wouldn't be as often. You have course form. You're building up that sort of profile. Time of year, I find is very important. Now, sometimes that can go hand in hand with the going. You'll have horses that'll go well March, April, October, November on the flat, but that's when you usually get softer ground. And the jockey, and not necessarily just because the best jockey, but have a look at the jockey's record on that individual horse. Something might just jump off the page. Doesn't have to be a big name jockey, so it doesn't. Time of year, the going, trainer form is invaluable. And on trainer form, don't just look at it and see if he's had any winners. See how his horse are running against market expectation. So a smaller trainer's had 2 or 3 horses placed at 20 to 1 and 25 to 1. They're outstripping the market on performance. So, you know, if they've got a 7 to 2 shot running next week and you fancy it, you can take that their stable are in good order. They don't have to be ones next to their name to be in good form.
Okay, this one is from SR74 Blackbird. What is your average betting turnover per year, and what is your yearly return on investment?
Well, then I'd be just telling them how much I win every year, I suppose, wouldn't I?
You would, so you don't have to if you don't want to.
The turnover is probably around. I won't give the ROI, but the turnover will probably be about 1.5 million, roughly ballpark. It probably sounds ridiculously large to people, and there'll be plenty of people out there that are probably turning that over in 4 or 6 months. You know, depending on their type of business. But I would say 30 grand a week would be a ballpark estimate of what I'd be turning over, all in. That's as honest as that's something I would have thought about before in the past. It's not a figure. I'd put it this way: that wouldn't be a figure I'd go over. So between 1.3 and 1.5 would be truthful.
Okay, Rodrigo de Triano. He
Alright.
said, this is a simple one. When deciding on his price for each runner, is he using pen and paper or spreadsheet? And does he follow the same process for every single race?
Same process, every single race, pen and paper.
Okay, Ryan.
And a highlighter.
Ryan McEwen 12. Does Shane track the accuracy of his compiled prices? Be interested to know how much in depth he looks if he does.
I sort of touched on that. No, I tend not to trawl back through stuff like that. I'm sort of a day-to-day sort of person, but I will remember the ones I've got badly wrong. And maybe is it me or was there something else going on? It's usually probably me, but and you'll remember the ones that you got very right, and all the other ones just sort of melt into the background, don't they? Because they're all there or thereabouts. But you don't forget the ones you get badly wrong, and I think if you can store that information, that's what you need.
Well, leads on perfectly to this next question. 2 to Coop 3. With the benefit of hindsight, what would Shane say is his worst price, Rick, he was ever responsible for?
God, Jesus, on a daily basis, you get them wrong. As regards having a bet and they probably go off bigger, or
that was all he's. I don't know if he means.
Oh, I've often. I can't think of one off the top of my head, but I've often had a bet, and they could go off 4 times bigger on Betfair. It wouldn't be off, but there'd be no. Yeah.
How many times do they win when that happens?
They probably don't when they're that big. But again, you've probably just made a balls at a race like yourself. You just have to put your hands up and say you're wrong. But yeah, there'd be howlers in there. But sure, how can you avoid them? But yeah, sometimes when you get it wrong, it's horrible. You probably just have to. You wouldn't even bother watching the race at the end of it. But no, I'd like to think that it wouldn't happen too often, that it'd be that badly wrong, but yeah, it definitely happens where, it could be 3 or 4 times the price you've actually had to bet, yeah.
Okay, Matt Swad would like to know, toss a coin once only, odds of 5 to 2. What percentage of your bankroll are you having on?
It's 5 to 2.
You're getting 5 to 2, the toss of a coin.
An even money shot. But sure, depends how, just a once off. I should have as much as you let me. I wouldn't be having I'm not the type of guy now that I'd be having all the tank on now. But I probably should. But I'd have a go at that fight. You'd love it once a day, wouldn't you? You'd love to have a go once a day.
Right now, this is probably the last one, and Garte72 likes value because he's asked a few questions. I'll rattle them all off, and then you can.
Yeah.
Does Shane do multiples? Do you keep records of your bets? Do you use post ratings? What form sites do you use? And do you compile a notebook of horses to follow?
Right, it's the first one.
Do you do multiples?
If I can get on them, the first port of call is getting my single bets on. They're the bread and butter. So they are. If I saw an opportunity, once all my business is done, at the mature markets, I would, but it'd be rare.
What ones do you do?
Probably a Trixie. Probably the doubles and a treble, because there's probably not more than 3 at any one time that you can get on. If there's 4, I put it this way: I'd never entered my mind to put more than 4 in a bet. So you might do a Yankee or that. We did have a little avenue into the prices the night before at one stage for small money, and didn't affect the markets. And sure, you just take anything you could get, But yeah, that's, if you're lucky enough, that's where in a short space of time you can get a lot of money.
All right, we'll finish the next ones off in part 3.
Okay, yeah.